Let's continue the discussion. Republican strategist Ford O'Connell Skyping in from Washington, and our friend on the left, radio and TV commentator Ellis Henican, joining us by phone from New Orleans. Ford, you had some comments on this.
Well, I think that what Ellis is missing here is there are glitches, and this is going to happen, and real people are going to face effects. Forget the gotcha politics for a moment. I think my friends on the left misinterpret why the right is unhappy with Obamacare, because it goes to the role of government and the distribution of risk, which is what the Congresswoman was talking about, whether or not she blames Obamacare. And unfortunately, Obamacare is literally like the game Jenga. One more piece comes out of this thing, the whole thing's going to fall apart, and unfortunately, real people are going to suffer the consequences. And I think that that's what we need to focus on going forward.
Ellis, people in politics and certainly on the left talk about real-life experiences. You really sure you want to reconsider what you had to say about Congresswoman Lomas there?
Absolutely not. I want to double down. But first of all, let's acknowledge, guys, that in any medical system there are glitches. Life isn't perfect, and it's tragic when bad things happen. And thankfully, we have a system, a legal system here where you sue people when bad stuff happens and you get some relief. But there's no perfect system. On the other hand, to try and use some individual human tragedy as a piece of cheap political rhetoric is beneath people like us. We ought to have this conversation based on how it is that we can serve the largest number of American people and get them the health care they deserve. Our system doesn't work very well. We have worse results than a whole lot of other nations, and we deserve better. And I don't want to just throw up my hands and say I trust the insurance companies and the drug companies to do it.
Oh, so you're going to trust government to do it. You're going to trust government, and look at what happened.
Well, that's the problem, JD, is we've seen how the VA healthcare system works. It works terribly, and that's what we're moving closer to. And unfortunately, that's the problem. I have agreed with Ellis in the past that we do have to monitor the insurers and the hospitals, but once the government steps in, things always do not work as well, and we all know that. And for Ellis to say, my gosh, I can't believe the Republicans are playing for shame politics, this is something his side has been engaging in for years. So let's get beyond that. I do agree with Ellis, but who are we kidding ourselves, Ellis? This is what goes on in politics, sadly.
Let me give you one good comparison. You know what? There's terrible things about getting old, but one of the good things is Social Security. It is the best, most successful, and yes, government-run programs that has ever been invented in the history of this country. I just wish I were old enough to get it. Wouldn't we all be better off if we were in a system like that?
So Social Security, you
That's
say,
a false appeal, Ellis, and we all know that Social Security is about to drop in the toilet as soon as the baby boomers all reach 65. So let's be honest.
Ford,
you want to
Ford
talk about a program that you say is working well, and it's eventually not going to work well because we're going to run out of money.
Wouldn't you rather have Medicare than private insurance, honestly? It's much better.
Absolutely not. My mother wants to get off Medicare. She
God,
hates
I'll
Medicare.
trade.
She
Why
feels it's
doesn't
limiting.
she give me hers and I'll give her mine? How about that?
Well, you know what, Ellis? I think that in all honesty, if you ask most people if they can afford it, they would rather have the private care than Medicare. Medicare hamstrings you over tests. And again, it comes down to a distribution of risk. How old are you, and are we actually going to perform this surgery? Come on, Ellis. You're going to false appeal here, my friend.
Ellis, one more chance. Ellis, you sure you don't want to take back what you had to say about the widow from Wyoming who happens to be serving in Congress?
Oh, I feel terrible for anyone who has had human tragedy in her life. I'm sure the family is suffering, and the husband was probably a wonderful guy. But to try and use that to somehow blame Obamacare or hold the president responsible for the death of her husband, no, that is you ought to renounce that the same way that I am, JD.
I will tell you, personal experiences do matter. I know that in politics and in broadcasting. Gentlemen, to you both, thanks for your time. And America's Forum will continue here on Newsmax TV following this time out.